From Fox 61, Connecticut's news station, this is a weather impact alert.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Tim Lammers here in the Fox 61 studios in Hartford. We did interrupt programming because we want to get you down to Oxford right now, where Governor Ned Lamont is set to address the state regarding that catastrophic flooding that hit in western Connecticut, specifically in the Naugatuck Valley. Oxford itself got 13.5 inches. Let's get you out to that press conference right now.
Of the Connecticut State Police.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Colonel Daniel Lockman, Commanding Officer of the State Police, and I'd like to provide you an update with the flooding that occurred within the state, specifically the town under Connecticut State Police jurisdiction that received the most impact, which was Oxford. The rainfall caused significant flooding and has resulted in both loss of life, damage to property, and has impacted the towns with a substantial number of road closures. Last night, the Connecticut State Police assisted with assets and in personnel in the rescue efforts to extract those who were stranded in Kettletown State Park, as well as Jackson Cove on Lake Zor. The only access to rescue was by boat. The efforts were successful, and they were evacuated to a shelter in Southbury. Yesterday, it was reported that 2 women were swept away by floodwaters in the town of Oxford. 2 individuals have been located today, and it is believed that the recoveries were of the individuals witnessed and reportedly swept away by floodwaters. At this difficult time, our thoughts were with the family of the deceased. I want to assure you that the State Police remains on scene as this remains an active and ongoing incident. Our canine search and rescue teams and a drone team are in the staged in the town of Oxford, and we are ready to help with the search and recovery efforts. Our aviation unit believes that there's a window this afternoon that they'll be able to get up in the air, and they will also be assisting. Oxford PD is operationally closed due to flooding. The building was successfully evacuated yesterday with no known injuries. Operations for Oxford PD have shifted to Troop A in Southbury. Any routine calls should be directed to Troop A at 203-267-2200. All emergency calls will still go to 911. Again, all emergency calls 911. State Police urge all motorists to check road conditions before driving to their destinations. Motorists should not drive over water or in roadways that are closed due to the water. Turn around and do not drown. I ask that everyone avoid the area if at all possible. And I'd like to thank our brother and sister partners at Demis, the local fire departments, local and municipal police departments, DOT, and the utility companies, among others. Any additional information will be released at cspnews.org. Thank you, and that's all the information I can share at this time. I'd like to introduce the Commissioner of the Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection, Commissioner Ron L. Higgins.
Thank you, Colonel. Good afternoon, everyone. As you've heard from both our State Emergency Management and Colonel Lockman of the Connecticut State Police, we have been and continue to work around the clock to make sure that resources are deployed. We are in constant communication with all of our partners at the local, state, and federal level. As you heard Deputy Commissioner Bergeron share, we are working with them closely on going from response to recovery. We know that working together is crucial, and that's what we do in this state. We work together with our partners all over the state on the local, the state, and the federal levels. I want to say I'm grateful for the partnerships of our emergency management teams. John Field, who's been doing an amazing job fielding calls around the clock. They have slept very little. I also want to give a shout out to our first responders who supported those community members in the town of Oxford over the last 24 hours in their time of need. I just want to say that we will continue to work with all of our partners, as I said before, and as you've heard, on the federal, the state, and the local level, to make sure that we have a well thought out recovery stage. At this point in time, I'm going to bring up our Senator Blumenthal for remarks.
think I'm supposed to follow.
Oh, okay.
I think we could have
I'm sorry.
Commissioner Ugalito.
Was it Commissioner Ugalito?
Yes.
Commissioner, okay, sorry about that.
My name is Garrett Uclear. I'm the Commissioner of Connecticut Department of Transportation. Just a quick update from our side. So just on the state road side, as of this moment, we have 27 reported closures of state roadways. That number may increase or decrease at any moment. So I encourage the public to check ctroads.org. That is where we constantly are updating the status of our state roadways. That does not include local roadways that may also be closed. I do want to thank our partner first responders as well as our partner local DPWs have been working all night to try and secure our infrastructure. A few important points is if there are cones or barrels or caution tape up, I strongly am encouraging everyone to adhere to those signs. Do not cross those roadways. You don't necessarily know what is underneath the pavement. The pavement could have been undermined. The bridges could have been impacted by scouring. That caution tape and those barrels are up for a reason. The other important point is that, there may be future closures that we identify as we are spending today inspecting everything. We've had several hundred crews out there looking at all of our infrastructure, inspecting above and below the surface of the roadway and the bridges to see what we may or may not be able to find. As water continues to move down our water courses, debris is in the waterways. That may clog our culverts and bridges, so that may also end up impacting more infrastructure. We're hopeful that is not the case, but it's just because today you may have passed over it, tomorrow it may end up being closed, so pay attention to those barrels and cones and caution tape. The other important thing is it's going to be a long recovery, so I know I'm going to be asked when we're going to open certain roads. And I am honestly saying we don't know. We need to fully inspect every single bridge that has been impacted and the pavement that has been impacted. And until we do that inspection, until we talk to our contractors, we do not know when those bridges or roadways will be reopened. So I'm asking for everyone's patience, and please be safe and avoid passing through those areas. Thank you.
Commissioner Dykes.
Good morning. Katie Dykes here, Commissioner of the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. I want to provide an update on a few of the different operational impacts associated with DEEP's programs. First and foremost, yesterday, I can share with our Bureau of Outdoor Recreation that we worked very closely with first responders to help evacuate nearly 50 campers who were stranded at the Kettletown campground when a bridge that is the only access point for that campground was washed away. So all of the campers were able to be evacuated. In total, we had 45 persons, including campers plus 3 DEEP staff who were at the campground, and they were safely transported through to the on shore safely through a boat rescue. The American Red Cross provided support. I want to especially thank the fire departments from Kent, Sherman, Southbury, Gaylordsville, and Middlesex, and Litchfield County coordinators who helped us as well as our Deep Encon police to conduct the boat rescue. All of the campers, our understanding, are local Connecticut residents. Kettletown State Park is closed, will be closed for the season. We know that because of the bridge being washed out, there are about 20 vehicles that remain at the campground. So we're working with National Guard on our near-term actions we can take to help recover those vehicles. But then we'll be assessing the damage to the bridge and providing updates going forward in terms of the future when that park plans for restoring the bridge for that park for next year. We have also Indian Well State Park is closed today as we're assessing damage and also safety at the water quality safety at the beach. And there was also an impact to Larkin Bridle Trail, which is about a 10-mile trail that it was impacted by a washout. From the dam safety standpoint, DEEP staff have been continually engaged and coordinating with emergency responders and dam owners across the municipal, municipally owned dam, private owned dams, and our federal partners. With respect to the Stevenson Dam, that is owned by First Light and is a hydroelectric dam on Lake Zor. The dam is structurally sound and is operating as designed. It's not a flood control dam, it's a hydroelectric dam. So the flows through the river have been passing through the dam at higher as designed. There were some conflicting reports yesterday that were circulating about the status of the dam, so I'll refer to the press release that First Light put out yesterday evening, just confirming the dam is structurally sound and is operating as planned. And I believe First Light has been providing some notifications today to households related to their flood management plan, just with respect to the declining water levels that we're seeing in the area. In addition, we know that there's some impacts potentially around the Kinneytown Dam and the adjacent Coe Pond Dam. We're working with FERC, which has the jurisdictional responsibility there. They're conducting an inspection. The issue that we're focused on there is any impacts to the structural integrity of the berm that supports the railroad line that is adjacent to that dam. So we'll be getting more data, and we can provide more updates as the day goes on. We have also, of course, through our dam safety program, we're monitoring the status and doing inspections and coordinating with owners of municipal dams and other private dams across the state that are high hazard dams or Class B significant hazard dams. We have a dam watch program that tracks any higher dams that are experiencing 25-year levels and above. And then we're coordinating. We have 2 crews working from DEEP today out doing inspections. We're also coordinating with private and municipal entities that are doing inspections of their dams. At this time, we don't see any imminent risk to any other dams that we've been monitoring. We will be working to provide for emergency permitting authorizations for any maintenance that's needed across any dams that may have been impacted. In addition, we are seeing reports of debris in the water, for example, oil tanks and so on and so forth, for example, that have been, we're surveying by drone at Lake Zor, and we're also in touch with municipalities and others who may be seeing debris impacting marinas and so on downstream. We have our drone system working from our emergency response unit and in coordination with EPA Region 1 to assess any hazardous debris that may be in the water. We urge anyone, if you see anything or have questions or need response, to contact DEEP Dispatch at 860-424-3333. From a wastewater standpoint, we've been in touch with all of the wastewater treatment plants in the area. We're not seeing any damage to facilities. The operational impacts are consistent with what we would see during a high rainfall event, and we're providing any info with respect to sewer overflows through our normal reporting channels on Twitter. We are going to be working very closely with our colleagues at the Department of Transportation to provide for any emergency permitting authorizations needed so that they can expedite their work. And finally, I'll just note that, of course, this is a very historic and unprecedented rainfall event, and it's consistent with the accelerating impacts of climate change that we're experiencing. We have a strong track record here in the state through the Deep Climate Resilience Plan program of providing support to municipalities to help them plan for the types of infrastructure investments they need to better protect communities from, as best we can, from the impacts of these more extreme weather events. All told, over the last 3 years, Connecticut municipalities have received over $108 million of federal funding, FEMA BRIC funding. I really appreciate Senator Blumenthal's presence here and the support from our federal delegation, who have really helped us receive a robust share of federal funding that's available for these types of forward-looking infrastructure projects. We provided $8 million last year through the Deep Climate Resilience Fund to provide planning grants for municipalities to help design and conceive of the projects that they can apply to the federal government for, and that included about $700,000 in an award to Waterbury, and then another roughly $700,000 to the Naugatuck Valley COG to support planning for stormwater management projects that can help support this region. Next month, September, we will be opening up the next round of the Deep Climate Resilience Fund. We have $75 million in bond authorizations that are provided by the legislature, and we'll be putting that out for proposals from municipalities to support additional planning grants so that they can conceive of projects, but also for the first time providing match funds because the FEMA program requires a state or local match. So we'll be inviting municipalities to apply for those match funds so that they can pursue the next round of FEMA funding that will be opening up, we understand, in September. Sorry for that. There's a lot going on at DEEP, but thank you for that.
Thank you, Commissioner Dykes. Before we move into our legislative partners, can we hear from First Selectman George Temple?
Thank you. Thank you all for coming today. This is a tragic and devastating day for Oxford. We have this morning recovered 2 bodies in Little River. They were both women, and they're, as I understand it, they're both Oxford residents. You know, I don't think our town is used to flash floods, and you know, a lot of people did the absolute wrong thing, which was try to drive through without knowing what was on the other side. But our prayers and thoughts go out to the families of these 2 women. Many of us who worked all day and night were struck by the power of the raging Little River. And, you know, you think a name like Little River, it wouldn't be that bad. The Route 67, where many of you came up, was about 4 to 6 feet deep and very, very tumultuous current. And you can see the end results if you walk down Route 67 for a while, and you'll see that the road has been caved in and thrown apart. Additionally, of course, we had several businesses that were severely damaged, and many cars were totally wrecked. Yesterday's storm left people stranded. We rescued 30-plus people from Jackson Cove, which is our beach for Lake Zor, and they were there for a birthday party for a 2-year-old child, and that included also a child that was 5 months old. We were able to, at about 10 o'clock last night, evacuate everyone safely to Southbury by boat. The entrance to Jackson Cove has been totally washed out. I would like to thank our firefighters, our ambulance crews, the Public Works Department, and police officers who worked all evening to keep us safe. And, you know, I was there, and I'm proud to have such men and women serve the town, and I am proud of our civic leaders who served the town with such dedication. We will overcome this in Oxford, and we will build better than ever because we're Oxford tough. Thank you.
Thank you, First Selectman. Senator Blumenthal?
I want to join First Selectman Temple in thanking the first responders, the police, firefighters, everyone who was out last night and who will continue to be out in the days ahead, and express my condolences to the loved ones of those 2 women who perished. The First Selectman said that Oxford isn't used to flash floods, Neither is Seymour or Newtown or Danbury. I just came from Seymour. The devastation there is heartbreaking and gut-churning, not just to the physical infrastructure, roads, bridges, and the cost to the municipality, but also to the small businesses who have suffered damage they cannot recover. They have no flood insurance. Because who would have thought the Little River would turn into a gushing torrent of destruction, which is what happened. That Little River became big. It became a huge, gushing torrent of destruction, not only in Seymour, but here in Oxford. And we will seek federal help. Be absolutely sure we will seek federal aid. They're entitled to it. These communities have suffered an otherwise irreparable cost and damage, and there are programs available. The federal disaster declaration, which the governor, I'm told, is seeking, we've talked. We will provide every ounce of effort as a federal delegation, spare no energy or effort in seeking federal help from FEMA and other agencies that have an obligation, a responsibility to provide it, just as they aid Oklahoma in tornadoes or Florida in hurricanes. These flash floods here are equally destructive, not only to life and well-being, but also to property. But we need to address this issue as a longer-term challenge. Resilience against climate change is not just for the coastline. Flash floods and other disasters affect all of Connecticut. We all have a stake in planning and preparing. And that's why the federal government is providing those $50 or more billion for the nation as a whole, and hundreds of millions, and I hope eventually billions of dollars for Connecticut to prepare, plan, and prevent the kind of damage that we saw here, the destruction that can wreck lives and businesses and tear apart communities. In the meantime, we will be working for resilience programs that invest in stronger infrastructure so that the Little River is contained when it threatens to overflow and do this kind of damage. There's no mystery here as to what is required to prevent these kinds of destructive disasters in the future. It is investment in the physical stuff that contains and constrains these natural disasters. I hope that folks see the great work that our agencies are going to be doing out there. When you see those cones, slow down, move over. It applies to the big highways, but also to 67 and 34 and 188, which are going to require a lot of work. You'll see those cones out there for a while. Slow down, move over. The guys working out there are doing a job under difficult circumstances, and the state police who are out there are also doing their job. So I know that towns have already started the recovery work, and we have begun drafting the papers that are necessary for us to support a disaster declaration. It will be targeted at the communities that have suffered losses, and it will be in partnership with the state and Governor Lamont, whom I'm pleased to introduce now.
Or we could hear from our local representatives, state representatives. Let's start with Representative Labriola.
As the local state representative here in Oxford, I live just right around the corner. I can tell you that the people of Oxford, we're hurting and our hearts are breaking. So we need a lot of help. And we're just really moved by the response by the governor, by our senator, the federal and state authorities, our agencies, our commissioners who are here, and their staff. And we're just so pleased and thankful for all the good work that they've already begun, because we need it. We need it now, and we're going to need it for the next few weeks and months ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Senator Tegna.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for being here. I also offer my condolences to the two Oxford residents who were tragically lost as a result of this historic flooding. Some people have called this a 1,000-year storm. I'll remind those of you that are old enough to remember that 69 years ago yesterday was the flood, the Great Flood of Waterbury, which put the downtown Waterbury and all of these valley towns underwater. I'm thrilled to see that we have our members of our federal delegation in Washington here. We have our governor here who interrupted his plans to be here in Oxford. I had a conversation with the governor. We have an agreement, if you will, that the state will provide through its agencies all of the resources we need to get Oxford back on its feet. Oxford got sucker punched yesterday and then taken out at the knees. Our infrastructure is broken. Our main highway that runs through this town is broken. We have a loss of life. We have a loss of businesses. We have people that have had significant damage to their homes. And we will need the full strength of the local government and the state government and the federal government to fix this beautiful town and get it back running in the right direction again. But thank you for being here. Thank you, Governor, for making this a priority today as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Huang.
Thank you. State Senator Tony Huang. I represent Newtown and Bethel. I want to thank the governor for interrupting his vacation to be here. It is important to have the leadership show. It does matter. My heart goes out to the people of Oxford and the loss of life, but this was a region that got hit in a devastating sheer force in a show of Mother Nature's power. When we talk about the rainfall, I just checked. The average rainfall for Oxford and Newtown for the month of August is about 3.5 inches. We got over a range of 12 to 16 inches of rainfall this past weekend. It is a catastrophic amount of rain. No infrastructure could accommodate it. That being said, what I saw today in going out with law enforcement and first responders and getting firsthand view of the devastation is, it is not just what you see in the pictures. It is the infrastructure damage that we don't see. I sit on the Transportation Committee. I want to echo Commissioner Eucalito's reiteration that if there are blocks and if there are detours, respect it. Do not be sightseeing to get that photo or get that video, because the structure is unsound. It is truly, first and foremost, a public safety concern. I think the second point is the fact that we are going to need collaboration from all sectors of state, local, and federal. I'm so grateful, I'm going to repeat again, I'm grateful that the governor has made the effort to show his commitment to the residents that I represent. But I think the second point is also for us. I know I speak for Senator Berthel, Senator Kelly, and Senator Harding, who will speak afterwards, is we have reached out and asked for the federal government to declare this region a disaster area so we can get the federal funds that are necessary for restoration of infrastructure and also be able to salvage and support those families and lives that have been disrupted. This is what we do as legislators. We are here to advocate for our community, but it can't be done without the agencies and the first responders and the people that make the entire system work. So I'm happy to be a part of it. Thank you for having me here, Mr. Temple.
Sure.
And I think it's important. Every one of our towns need to work together and help the people in need. They need it now. Thank you.
Senator Harding.
I just
want to echo what Senator Wong had mentioned. This is a regional issue. Obviously, it seems like Oxford, unfortunately, got hit the worst. But the eastern end of my Senate district got hit pretty hard as well. And I appreciate the governor, I appreciate all the state agencies and the federal delegation for taking this with this serious nature they should be and doing what we need to do to build back from this. Because a lot of this state, a big broad swath of Western Connecticut is going to have a lot to build back from, unfortunately. And with the help of state government and federal government, hopefully we can, and local government as well, we can work to build back for our constituents and our businesses. So thank you.
Yeah, so here we are again. And, as Eric said, yesterday, ironically, was the 69th anniversary of terrible flooding right here that devastated our towns. The Little River became the Big River. And it is happening with more and more frequency. Just a year ago, a lot of us were there in the Connecticut River Valley, and they had been irrigating it due to severe drought. And there they were 2 weeks later, and the fields are all underwater. And it's just a reminder that we have to hang together at a time like this, especially given the tragedy. George, right here in your town in particular, those 2 women swept away. It's just incredible what happened there. And it reminds you a little bit of how we work together. I mean, starting here, George, and you working with your, fellow first selectmen and mayors, the Public Works Department, the first responders, the first ones there. I love the regional assistants. I love the other towns coming in and providing what additional support they can as well. Brenda was there. We were on with the Emergency Operations Center, almost immediately. And I'll tell you, how that works. That works with Garrett Eucalito and his team from DOT, Department of Transportation. They have to go out there. They have to check the roads. They have to check the bridges for safety, make sure going forward, as you heard from George and otherwise, when you see those yellow cones, stop. You may say, oh my gosh, look at that road. It looks like it's okay to me. I don't see much water. There can be a culvert under there. Water can be going under there. That thing can go anytime. Please pay special attention there. Katie and our group at Deep, they're taking a special look right now, checking all the different dams. Make sure those dams are holding. Right now, as you heard from Katie, those dams are holding. We've got them reinforced a lot since 1955, and able to keep us safe. We were there, Brenda, with public health. Why is public health there? Well, they got to pay special attention to our nursing homes, special attention to our hospitals, those most at need, most vulnerable. We're there, obviously, with Eversource and UI. Make sure the electricity is on. Where do we have the most needs? Make sure that we can respond accordingly. And I'm really proud that we've been able to work very closely with the legislative delegation you have here, fighting every day for this community in this region. And I got to say the same thing for our federal delegation. Senator Blumenthal is here. As we are filing for emergency declaration. Make sure we get to the front of the line. Make sure that front of the line means we get every resource we can to make sure that Oxford and neighboring towns can get back on their feet. It also, as Garrett tells me, accelerates the permitting process. So if we have to do any special repairs to, say, those bridges or dams, we can get to the front of the line there as well. And we are trying to think down the road in terms of resilience, what we can do to make sure this is a lot less likely to happen again. We have plenty of time to discuss that, but right here now, I just want to thank the people standing behind me, thank those first responders. Our hearts goes out to those that lost their lives, and we're doing everything we can to make sure. I can't tell you this will never happen again. I can tell you we're going to make sure that we make it less frequent and make sure it's less severe, and that's something we're working on every day. Thanks, everybody.
Governor, was enough done to alert people in advance? I'd like to ask George that, too.
Yeah, if you don't mind, there are a couple of things I forgot. You may not know about our town. Let me tell you about our town. Since we had this problem, I can't tell you how many private citizens called and requested that they help out any way that we can. Well, of course, right now is not the time to do it, but that's Oxford. That's the way they are. And there are a few people here when you all leave, we're going to have to do the very difficult work of getting back to normal. One of which, one individual, Arnie Jensen, who is also on the Board of Selectmen. We'll be working together along with Dave McCain. And I want to thank my administrative assistant, Kristen Rosa. She did a great job during this. And, of course, Scott Pelletier, who is our emergency services coordinator. He did a wonderful job. And Jim Haliva, who has to put together the bills, and hopefully we get it paid.
Is there any more information on the unfortunate situation?
Well, thank you for watching this special coverage of the flooding that Connecticut has endured over the last 24 hours. As you heard Governor Ned Lamont and other officials speaking about what the state is going to do going forward. Our coverage will move forward as well. Don't forget to tune into the Fox 61 News at 5 p.m. for the latest on how this state is starting to pick up the pieces after a very, very bad day in the western part of the state. I'm Tim Lammers. Have a great afternoon, everybody.
Of